And welcome back to Rage Bait, where living is a privilege. I am your host, Commander After 40. With me
And
today,
oops. It's been a while.
It's been a while since I could.
it's been a while.
Since I could podcast right. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
No,
as you were saying.
with, with our favorite all-time co-host, Sensei from Popcorn and Pork Rind.
Hello, what it do,
Go
folks?
ahead.
It is your host, Sensei on Popcorn and Pork Rinds YouTube channel. Oh, it's all going in. It's all going in.
It's all going in.
Yeah, what is today's topic?
Today's topic is how women like to brutalize men in their online forums by using data.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Said, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
um, Women brutalizing men with their online data. Oh, oh. I don't think I've been in those spaces.
And they're horrifying spaces, I'll tell
Uh,
you what.
I'm about to learn something, but I'm for sure going to give my opinion on it, and it's going to be unfiltered. Yeah, I'm ready.
So basically, I've been exploring these online forums in order to help with topics for rage bait.
Mhm.
And I've been seeing this trend of these women making these forums and using data to justify their hatred towards men. And
Does
I
this
was
have to
like,
do with the male loneliness thing?
oh yeah, it has everything with the male loneliness, choosing the bear, men aren't lonely enough.
Mm, I will say this, right? Is I think a lot of hate that men get, it's deserved. But
Oh yeah.
here's the issue that I have with that also is when you are like such as myself, when you're a man
Hmm.
and you're actually in a good relationship and you don't treat women like crap, you're not hanging out in those spaces. You're not online. You're not throwing it in everybody's face. So it makes it look like, oh, look, 100% of men are trash versus 99% of men are trash, but the 1% are off being happy.
Hmm. And that's true. I've seen those arguments as well, where men will get on these forums, and those poor men, they mean so well.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
But unfortunately, they're fodder. And they'll get on there and they'll be like, hey, I'm a happily married man who treats his woman with respect and love and dignity. I don't know what you're all are talking about. And it's like putting blood in the water.
Yeah, it's almost like, you had mentioned the bear,
Hmm.
women choosing the bear over a man. And I
Hmm.
thought that I was doing right one day because I made a post on Facebook and I said, I totally get it. I have a daughter, blah, 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 right?
Right?
And I started getting ate up. And I'm over
Hmm.
here like thinking like, why am I getting ate up when I'm, siding with you? But at the same time, I'm not a woman. And
Right.
what I did was I took the post down and I didn't argue with anybody. And I said, you know
Hmm.
what? It's just, I think it's my place to just listen, listen.
Hmm.
And then if, let's say, a woman needs me to do something or say something, be available because sometimes when we think that we're being advocates, when it isn't.
Right. And that's true from other perspective circles,
Hmm.
like even though I am female, I don't think like a female.
Yeah.
So when I hear these, I choose the bear and all that stuff, I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Right. And then I'm instantly labeled as pick me. And
Mm.
let's face it, I don't really care
Yeah. You know
about
what?
the pick me title. It's kind of like, well, it's kind of like telling a spade it's a spade. So,
I could see it from both ends. I guess
hmm.
with this kind of topic, it would probably be like, what is the majority? And
Hmm.
I have seen a lot of women. Okay, specifically black people, right? I've seen
Right.
black women go online and
Hmm.
tear down other black men, and then I've seen other black women go online and defend black men, and they also get called, pick me's and choose me's, and you want to
Mhm.
be a trad wife type of, you accept abuse.
Mhm.
And not to sound like I'm trying to choose a side, because I am trying to see it from both sides, but I feel that a lot of women, such as yourself, where you were considered a pick me, is that you're just pointing out that it's a blanket statement and it doesn't work for everybody.
Right. And I understand that a lot of people might consider that like moving the goalpost, or even going as far as saying it's a bandwagon statement.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you have to understand that we're using data such as the male epidemic of loneliness and saying, well, they're not lonely enough.
Yeah.
And forgetting that that if it was the other end of that spectrum, we would be all up in arms. We'd be on the streets making parades, holding our signs, and
Do you do
men
those
aren't.
those holding those signs like the European women, where they don't have any shirts and their boobies are all out and they're protesting, or it's just going to be fully clothed? So
I
yeah, it
guess
just
it would
made it
depend.
weird.
It just went, well, it's not really that weird, is it? Because it's true.
It is true. I've seen it, and I was like, okay, that brings a lot of attention.
Exactly. It would be the only equivalent I could think of is like the Portland naked bike rides when they
Mm,
were having the protests.
mm-hmm.
You know, they were
Yeah,
already going to have the naked bike ride anyway.
that was a sea of mayonnaise. I didn't see not one speckle of pepper in that.
Oh, it would have been tragic.
My God, it would have got caught in the chain. So,
Oh shoot, it would have
um,
been tragic.
exactly.
But but yeah. So the thing is that it is a very uneven and unreasonable balance when it comes to the data that is being presented. Because if any woman, I'm going to use women for this example, if
Mm,
any woman actually brought up the data about, for instance, the male suicide rate, and how men are more likely to harm themselves than women are when it comes to the behavior that has been demonstrated through society, well, it's
you,
instantly dismissed. There's no argument. There's like, yeah, that's deserved.
uh, I
It's
think,
like, dude.
I think honestly, looking at myself and my upbringing, because it's very hard for me to relate to a lot of things, just like, you know, right around our age, if you're an elder millennial or you're a young Gen Xer, I don't have either one of those experiences, just because, my father was born in 1921, mother was born blind, but also in
Oh wow.
1942. And I grew up out in the country. So my experience when it comes to, oh,
Sorry.
oh, that's going to be, nope, that's left in too. It's hard to relate to a lot of those, but it's like I almost feel like I'm on the outside looking in, because I can understand why the suicide rate for men is very high.
Hmm.
And men, little boys when they're growing up, they are coddled. I've seen it.
Hmm.
But also, I wasn't coddled because, I had a very old paratrooper World War II father that didn't really talk much, and all he did was work. And my
Hmm.
blind mother was always cooking and cleaning, right? But they,
Right.
they never argued about, like, what the roles were. And
Hmm.
they never told me, this is what a little boy is supposed to be growing up into a man. They never told me none of that. They just taught me how to survive and how not to kill
Hmm.
myself, because dad is old, mom is blind.
Hmm.
But looking at a lot of my friends that were male, they were so unhinged. And I watched their fathers, if they had their father in their life, oddly enough,
Hmm.
and watching the father treat the mother like crap, and then watching the son emulate it, and then the son also being coddled, versus the,
Hmm.
the female or the woman or the little girl has to, well, you need to be clean and you can't, I didn't even know women farted. You have to carry yourself a certain way,
Right.
versus us, it's like, run amok,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of men be the utmost sensitive also. And that is a lot of that misogyny that's passed down from generation to generation. Just the same thing with racism. Racism
Hmm.
is taught. You're not born racist, you're taught
Hmm.
racism. And you made it
Right.
to be acceptable. just like with men, men that are, I guess what other women are talking about when it comes to the male loneliness epidemic is a
Hmm.
lot of men need to learn how to unpack that. They need to go to therapy because it is a lot of conditioning from our childhood. You know,
Right.
I don't think we all should just die and just fuck off, but 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 it also takes ourselves to realize that there's an issue and not to be afraid of something. Like, here's another example, and I'll keep it quick. Is
Hmm.
my Marine buddy. He was standing there one day. He looked very upset, and I said, "Look, man," I said, "I don't give a shit about anything else." I said, "At the end of the day, you are human," and I said, "You look like you want to cry." And I just went up to him. Mind you, he's a giant bear. God rest his soul, he's dead.
Hmm.
And I grabbed him, I pulled him in, and I hugged him.
Right.
And he literally laid his head on my shoulder and started crying.
Hmm.
And then I looked at him. I said, "You know what, man?" I said, "I'm never going to criticize you for being human."
Hmm.
And a lot of them want to push this misogyny bullshit, or machismo, thumping your chest. I'm a man. Like, what is
Hmm.
exactly a fucking man to you? Is it being
Right.
abusive,
Mm.
or are we all human here? Because last time I checked, we are.
Right.
But they want to uphold that vision of what somebody else had for them, like their grandpa, or their father if they were in their life, and all these other things. Yeah, the suicide rate is very high for men. It's very high. Women
Right.
have gone through a lot because they had
Hmm.
to, not because you wanted to.
Hmm. Hmm. Well,
I,
yeah, the thing, there's the book that I'm reading right now that really brought up the topic is For the Love of Men, a New Vision for Mindful Masculinity by Les Plank,
mm,
written in 2019. So it's a recent book, and it explains the dynamic of how research and how society has taught males to exist basically to exist to be a statistic.
mm,
So if you're not rich, powerful, and white, this is your statistic. This is how you're supposed to be in their world. And quite frankly, it's a fucking messed up, scary world, and I don't want any man to live through that.
yeah.
Because when you're living through that masculine mask, you're denied your basic humanity. And then you have these women on these forums reinforcing that very stereotype that causes more of the problem. Like there was this guy on TikTok recently. He was explaining how men who are in this loneliness epidemic, they become more violent, which makes them more of a threat to women, and women shouldn't be touting aren't lonely enough.
Is this
And of
the
course, he got
incel?
yes, the incel.
Mm,
But
mm-hmm.
the point he was trying to make, because he failed at it miserably because he has no proper social skills whatsoever, which happens. That's what happens when you self isolate. Is that he was just trying to say that if you uphold a stereotype, more and more people are going to hold on to that stereotype, and
Hmm.
and they do become more and more violent because they don't know how to express themselves any other way. And
Mm-hmm.
when you try to say, "Hey, express yourself this way," they immediately go, "Well, that's not man enough. That's not man enough. If I do it that way, I become feminine, and I can't do that. If I become feminine, I'm going to become a target, and I don't want to be a target. So I'm going to continue my toxic behavior
Uh,
in order to get what I want."
That reminds me, one day my wife was talking to, I don't know if it was a coworker or something along those lines, but they had asked her, "Where's your child?" And she said,
Mm,
"Yeah, with her dad because I work from home."
mm-hmm,
And they're like,
right.
"Oh, that's cute that he's babysitting." And she's like, "What
Mm,
do you mean by babysitting?" You know? Because they
mm-hmm,
put it as in, the man goes out and work, which I've done that. If we were going to talk about me and being a man, I've done the manliest shit, right?
mm-hmm,
I don't give a fuck about that title at all because I do cook, I do clean, and our child is literally around me the majority of the time. I did the majority of the diaper changes. She was
mm-hmm,
working outside of the home. But when she said
mm-hmm.
that to them and she was like, "Well, he's taking care of his child." They considered it babysitting. Like, I can't babysit my own child. It's my child. I'm being a parent.
Right.
And and it even
Mm-hmm,
happened one time in front of me where they said, "Oh, that's cute, women are supposed to be the ones that are always cooking and cleaning and all this other stuff." And I said, "Well, what if they're bad at it? What if I'm better at it?"
Hmm.
Does that make me less than a man? Right? Because I
Right.
was a manager. I am the one that fixes the vehicle when it breaks. I am the one that goes. I went on the roof last week and installed a satellite. You know,
Right.
like, there's
I
no
do.
complaint in the man department. And it's just weird to me that that is the way that a lot of people view it, especially the older generation. And
Hmm.
even one day, my grandfather, God rest his soul, he was born in 1908. I love that man. That man was the nicest person. But anyways, right?
Right, right, right.
And he was also blind. Go figure. And I had to guide him to the store. And I think I was a single digit age at this point, or maybe even 10, but I was very young. And
Hmm.
I had to hold his hand and walk to the store. And he squeezed my hand, but not like hard. And he said,
Hmm.
one day your hands are going to be rough like a man. And I was like, huh, that's what it means. They're already trying to indoctrinate me. So
Right.
fast forward, yeah, and I'm working in a warehouse, and I'm a forklift driver, and that sounds pretty manly, right? I'm a forklift
Right.
driver in the freezer. So now I'm in negative 10 degrees, stocking inside of the freezer, and
Right.
I do not use gloves. I want to touch the
Mm.
product. Now, mind you, my hands are freezing. I'm in there for at least 4 hours, come out and do what you're not supposed to do, running hot water on your hands, drying off, and go back
Oh
in.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not wearing gloves. I don't wear a freezer suit. And I go back in and I'm stocking. Mind you, I worked in this warehouse for almost 10 years. I don't like gloves because when I'm picking up the product, it kind of slips out of my hands. I'm not
Mm.
using gloves. I'm repeating it again. I'm not using gloves. Why are my hands soft? and every time I look at my hands and they're not cracked and they're kind of girly looking, right? And they're
Right.
kind of small. They're bigger than the average woman's hand, but it's small for a man's
Hmm.
hand. I don't have
Right.
calluses. I don't have any of that. And I live and work on a farm also as of right now, as you know. I
Right.
don't use gloves. And my
Mm.
hands are beautiful. So now I'm thinking, Grandpa, you said when I become a man, my hands are going to be rough. They're not rough.
Mm.
They're still not rough. And I do
Right.
everything without gloves. I'm sorry,
Hmm.
Grandpa.
Which
You
is funny because in my case scenario, like right now, my hands are cracked. I have calluses thicker than my heel. I have a band-aid currently on my finger because I got a blister and I popped that thing because I hate that feeling of blisters on my hands, so I
pop
popped
that
them.
thing. Don't pop that
I
thing.
just, yeah, you're not supposed to, but I
Don't
do
pop that.
anyway. So based on your description, your grandfather would probably say, "There's a man.
Yes.
There's a man right there."
Exactly. And that stuck with me for so long because I literally looked at my hands one day and I said, well, I guess I'm not there yet because, my hands aren't as what you described. And
Hmm.
I go out here and I wrangle cattle, I wrangle donkeys, and, I don't really do anything with chickens, but we have animals out here and I've done pipe work. And anytime that you've ever looked at any video where I'm doing pipe work, I'm not
Hmm.
wearing gloves.
Right.
I don't wear gloves. I hate gloves. And my hands are smooth as a baby's behind. So I don't know what happened.
I don't know either.
But
But
you're
that's
talking.
actually
No, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it is very amusing the definition of manlyhood based on one's physical features, such as calloused hands,
Yeah.
is very, I guess, amusing to me because it's like here I am struggling, and if your grandfather could feel my hands, he'd say, "You have yourself a nice guy there. You got a nice fella as a friend right there." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so nice."
Mm-hmm.
I love it. That's so
It
great.
and that's what I'm getting at is, and that might have been a time or a thing for them, but
Definitely.
for moving forward and being progressive is that's just not the case anymore.
No, not really.
I just sent you two
We have
pictures.
better health. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm coming.
Yep. These pictures
I'm
that I
new.
because they can't see what I did, but I sent you pictures of my hands. And
Well,
we just
unfortunately,
hmm
I can't see them right away. I'll look at them later, unless
yeah,
they're on my phone.
yeah, I sent them to your
Oh,
phone.
there they are.
Yep. Look at that. Nothing.
They're manicured.
Yeah. Well, I don't. But here's the deal. I don't manicure either. I don't go to the nail shop. Matter of fact, there was a guy that we used to work with, and he got clear polish, and we made fun of him. We're like, bro, you're gay. Back when you could literally use gay as like
A slur.
yeah, because again, that was something that was normalized. Like,
Hmm.
bro, like, and he was like, men can go get their nails done. It's like, no, they can't. Stop being gay.
Should I call you Mr.? Pepe Julian Onzima, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for
Good
having
morning.
me. Morning to you.
Why are you gay?
Who says that?
You are gay.
Well, now it's more like, why aren't you getting your nails done?
Yeah,
If they feel
and
good.
I don't understand that either because I see a lot of people get attacked, men, by other men
Hmm.
when they get their nails painted like black and all this other stuff. Like my cousin put out a post talking about men in dresses, and I said, a lot of people, a lot of rockers back in
Hmm.
the 70s and 80s, they're cross dressing and wearing makeup, and
Oh
and
my
that,
gosh.
yeah, that's
Oh
considered
no, no,
manly.
no. No, they have recently released the newest tool belt, and I'm not sure if it's AI or not, but it made a whole lot of sense and it made me laugh so hard. It's a tool belt that's like a Scottish skirt.
Yeah, a kilt.
So, yeah, like a kilt. It's a tool kilt basically. And I don't know. It was one of the incels that was commenting about it. They're like, now they're trying to make us wear skirts in the workplace. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry you're not hung.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, it's gonna be hidden. Yeah, it
I'm sorry you're an innie, not an outie.
that makes no sense to me either because when you look at history, who was wearing the high heels and the wigs?
Right? White men.
Yeah, hello, wearing makeup and you got rosy cheeks. They're not talking about your
Hmm.
butt; they're talking about your face. And the
If you're
women,
lucky.
yeah, women are just wearing their drab stuff. Get in there and bake some bread. While they're out here hobnobbing and rubbing and touching each other, it's the men. But what were we talking about again?
We were talking about how the statistics and what was it? Just not only statistics, well, mainly just statistics, how people were using statistics to justify their hate towards men.
So, what
And how,
statistics are they using per se?
let's see. Uh, so, like the University of California about mass shootings, for instance.
Uh, no, we talked about that before. There's a
Hmm.
certain demographic that does that, but they don't want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, white men.
Yeah. Anybody
um,
that listens to that, they hate white people. She's white, y'all.
yep.
She's
So
a
to be
white woman.
clear, yeah, I'm a white female presented at birth person.
Yes, with a birthing canal.
Yep. Who gave birth to a white boy.
Yes, see, you're adding to the demographics.
So it's just like the fact that I have to prove that is enough to say that we are obsessed with statistics.
Yeah.
Statistics show that white women hate white men.
Ugh.
And it's like, come on.
Or with black people in crime, per capita, per capita, per capita. Like, get your
Oh,
racist, stupid shit out of here.
oh, again, that book, For the Love of Men, it brings up that statistic. And guess what? It's white men.
They don't.
White men.
They don't ever want to talk about the prosecution rate because we are targeted, but they don't want to talk about that. They just bring up that per capita. I can use my eyes and not even check a statistic and see who the fuck does what. Like all the time.
Mhm.
It ain't us.
But that's the
But
thing too, and then another thing you brought up earlier about how black women are bashing on black men,
yeah, I've seen it.
and that's another thing too. I ended up on that side of TikTok
Mhm.
of black women bashing on black men and saying how much trash they are, and I'm like, is this like a common thing? Because I haven't I mean, I see once in a while white women doing it, but the majority of them are black women. And I'm like, okay, obviously I'm in this weird echo chamber. What's up with that?
So, and I will explain it again before people are,
Hmm.
get out the pitchforks, is happy people aren't online to be seen.
Hmm.
They're off living life. And therefore, that bubble that they're in, that might be only their experience because that's where they're at. They have
Hmm.
not left that bubble, they haven't left that circle. That's where they're living. And
Hmm.
once they step outside of that, then they will see something different.
Right.
Because again, are we talking about the majority of black men and the majority of black women? Because I came from a two-parent home, and my mother came from a two-parent home. My daughter's in a two-parent home. All of these two-parent homes exist, and none of the male counterparts weren't bashing their women, and they wasn't abusing them and all that other stuff. I grew up in that
Hmm.
environment. That's why I'm able
Right.
to see where the positivity is.
Right.
And they might have came from a broken home, or their family is
Hmm.
broken, and that is their experience. Do I think it's right? No, but that is their truth. But
Right.
I wish that they would step outside of that also and go be somewhere else, so that way they can see that there is a difference, because otherwise that is their reality.
And I have the opposite reality. I come
Mm-hmm.
from a very broken home. I come from very distant, abusive men in my lifetime. In fact, they did another statistic and study. It shows that women and men who have been raised in traumatic experiences tend to like to see the best in people because that's how their brain coped with being abused as children. Because when you're a child, you need that protection and that safety. And when that protection and safety isn't available, your brain tries to protect you
Wow.
and makes everything look like rainbows and shiny unicorns.
My daughter
And what you
yesterday told me.
pointed teeth and blood.
My daughter told me yesterday that she's lucky to have me as her father. That's what she told me.
Oh.
And I looked at her and I said, "Well, I'm lucky to have you as my child."
Mm.
You know? And this is a little girl that is
Hmm.
mainly around her father, not her mother.
Hmm.
And again, these women that are in those spaces, well, would they consider me like, oh, I'm just the odd one out? I'm just a sprinkled. That's not the majority. It's because
Right.
I'm not in those spaces, therefore you won't see me.
Right.
So,
And then you have me lurking around.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And you know
What's
what? I
this light
think
doing in here?
that I think that's the nuance for almost everything. Everything that we've talked about. From
Hmm.
the middle and last year all the way up into where we're at now is there's nuance. Where I saw
Hmm.
another gentleman talking about 14 million people signed up for their hunting license and how nothing happened. So he's hinting at the fact that it's not a gun problem because
Hmm.
you have that. But then when you look at the statistics, because that's what we're looking at,
Hmm.
is there's about 102 or 107 million people that have guns. So that 14 million looks very
Hmm.
small now. But
Right.
out of 14 million, if you're looking at just 14 million, that's a lot of people. But there's nuance.
Yep.
I do believe that it is a gun problem. I do believe it is a white male problem. I do believe that it is a male problem. I do believe that it is a American problem. Because it checks off so many boxes. You
Hmm.
can't blanket statement any of it because all of it goes together. You can't leave out one. You need one, you got to bring the other one.
Hmm. And that's another thing too. The whole violence against women. That's another statistic that men are more violent towards women than women are against women. But the thing is that men are more likely to be destroyed, killed, and maimed and sexually assaulted by other men.
And you know what? You said something very good is because not only is it happening with males versus other males, but being that manly thing is attached to it, those men are
Hmm.
not going to go out there and say, "Hey, I was raped. Hey, I was
Right.
abused." They're going to keep that
Hmm.
shit to themselves. I didn't say anything about what happened to me when I was a child until I was well off in my 30s.
Right.
But I finally opened up. And you saw what happened on TikTok. I came out there and I tried to
Mhm.
make everybody else feel comfortable. If you think that I'm one of these people, like, manly man, ooh, beat chest,
Mhm.
and then I tell you a story of how I was sexually abused by a
Mhm.
male teenager as a
Mhm.
single
Mhm.
digit age, now all of a sudden that perspective changes. Because
Mhm.
I am a fucking victim.
Right.
But also, I did not say anything until I was off in my 30s.
Mm.
And the first time I ever talked about it, I was literally in my 30s. 30s is over a decade ago. Because you were commander after 40, and I'm old ass N-word.
You're
But
allowed to say it. I'm not.
yeah, I'm gonna keep it, close to, where we're not getting dinged. He said the N-word.
Yeah.
I say nigga all the time. See, I said it. But
But yeah,
yeah,
so you're going through this experience, and you're basically dismissed because you're a man.
no, I'm not even getting at the dismissal. I'm getting at the fact that I never even mentioned it. I didn't say anything, and
Mhm.
it didn't live in my brain that, hey, I shouldn't say this thing, because I'm a man. It just was one of those deals where I'm looking at other people be victims and abused, and I not speak up and say, hey, me too,
Right.
because men just don't do that. And it might have been a societal conditioning that I just, had subconsciously. But finally, what happened on TikTok, where, I found the pedophile. Well, actually, somebody else did, but I busted it open in
Right.
the community. And then people didn't really want to say anything. And I came out and I said, hey, I was a child that was molested. And then more people started speaking up and speaking out because they're
Mhm.
looking at me and I would have never thought that someone like you would have been a victim. And that's what I'm getting at,
Mhm.
because I was.
Right.
I had
And
no control over
yeah,
that.
yeah, no, and that's the thing too. The definition of rape has recently changed in 2012 to include personhood. In other words, not only men but women can be offenders.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that they're still not counting the idea that women can sexually assault, and even to the point of raping a man because they believe in the thought that an old thought that if it can come up, then they obviously
Oh,
wanted it.
I have a story for you. I'm not
See
going to drop any
see what I'm
names.
telling? I'm just saying that
uh,
the
uh,
definition has not changed to anyone's favor if we're still excluding men.
well,
Anyway, continue.
so I'm going to say this. I'm going to keep it short, and I don't know if anybody from my life even listens to the podcast, but a friend of mine was talking about how this girl raped him, and we were probably like maybe 17, 18 at this time, and we're looking at him like, how can a woman rape you? Like, in our brains, you can only be raped if you have a penis. If you have to use a penis to rape somebody, right? That's how
Right.
we were
That was the
thinking.
old definition.
Yes. And he said I was raped, and we were confused. Like, how? By a woman. So
Right.
that might be for part two. Then the other one, in my case, I remember this girl that I was dealing with. I told her that I didn't want to do it, and she literally, quote unquote, said this. This was over 20 years ago. She said,
Hmm.
"I don't need you to do anything except just lay there."
Jesus.
Yeah, that's what she. And I told her I didn't want to do it. And she was like, "Look, it's." She said this, quote unquote. She said, "It's not you doing me. It's me doing you.
Right.
So you don't have to do anything." And I was just
And
like,
you
"Wow."
Right. And
Um,
you didn't give consent or anything. You were just like, no. And she said, well, that's too bad.
Yeah, and then she took it, and a lot of our minds were like, well, his penis got hard, so he must have wanted it. Well, it doesn't really work that way. I can still not want something because a penis is an organ, right?
Hmm.
It's not an
That
organ.
reacts to it. No, it is an organ.
Yeah,
It's a,
yeah.
it's an organ.
It reacts to blood flow and it reacts to touch and all of these other things, right? I
Right.
can't shut that part off in my brain. Like, it just, for me, it doesn't work that way. I don't know.
But
Maybe it works like that for somebody else.
I don't know, but the problem is that the thing these forums like to scream about, and then we'll have to wrap this up, and we'll have to do a part 2 on this,
Yep,
because
because
this is a very hot button topic, and I'm
yep,
very passionate about this one.
we got 4 minutes right now.
Okay, I'll be quick. The thing is that these forums like to scream and rip apart men about consent. They're saying, consent, do you know what that is? Do you know what fries is? Which, by the way, was made by Planned Parenthood. Okay? Planned Parenthood made up fries. And then they said that the acronym was not good enough, so they made another acronym called CRISP. Anyway,
My God.
I'll get into that later. But the point of it all is that they still do not want to acknowledge the idea that a male can be a victim.
Yeah.
And they don't want to acknowledge the idea that women, being human, are just as vicious and as violent as any man. We're just easier to dismiss because of the patriarchy.
Yeah, I
Some
mean,
women take full advantage of it too.
if you look at these, documentaries on, killers and stuff, a lot of women will bait men in and kill. This woman will kill like 20, 30 men. Like I mean, yes, men do it also, but also, I'm watching it, and it's not only just men, it's women also, where it's like men go out there and do something stupid, while women, I've seen some of them be calculated, where they're marrying a rich guy, and oops, he died randomly, and now I got his insurance money, and now she's remarried, and like, oops, he died also. Like,
yeah, it's not until
Black
like the
Widow.
third or fourth victim that they start thinking, oh no, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah, it was like, just being done in a different way, but that humanizes all of us also when you think about it, because you can't say, well, women aren't able to rape when we know that they are. Same deal with men when you're looking at it from that perspective. So I think even in these spaces that you're talking about, because I'm not in them, is that they literally need to look at the humanity part versus the anatomy part, because a lot of the times we get lost in those things because we want it to feel comfortable and resonate with us personally.
Right. And that's why if any of the audience wants to try to go into these spaces to argue a point that we've made on this show, just remember, they don't care.
Facts.
They do not care. They do not care that you have statistics proving otherwise. They're there for the clicks. They're there for making some money. And if it makes more money for them to, basically say what they say.
Rage bait. I said it.
Rage bait.
I said it. Yep.
Okay, I think that's time.
That is time. Hey, we did it.